And to kick off, we're going to have the co-dean of the Weatherhead School of Business here at Case Western Reserve University, Andrew Medvedev. I'll go that way.
All right. Thanks, Lee, and thanks everybody for being here, and good morning and good afternoon to our friends on Zoom, depending on where you're dialing in from. It is a sincere pleasure to be with you all today. Youngjin is a dear partner of mine on the faculty, and I'm very happy to be spending time with you all this morning. You know, my wife and I came back to the region a couple of years ago, and even though I grew up in Ohio and there's a certain subjectivity to Ohio once you've spent any time here, I think we did it for objective reasons. We saw Ohio as the heartland of the 2020s. We saw the reshoring, deglobalization, the digital transformation of industries rolling through the Midwest, and really in combination with our advantages around water and infrastructure and all the operating leverage that exists in these communities, I think positions this region incredibly well. And we are actively building Weatherhead as the intellectual hub for the region. So it is these conversations, this level of partnership with the community is exactly what we should be doing. We'd love to see all of you collaborate and think of problems that are essential for the development of the region, for the development of the nation, and how to best propagate academic ideas into not only the conversations in the private sector, but the everyday practice. And that's what exactly what Dr. Yu has designed XLab to do. And that's what we're now doing in our fourth year of this conference, as well as many other things we do. When we hope that also when we leave this conference, this is not a once in a year event and an opportunity to come to one of the greatest cities in America, but also a ongoing part of the conversation. And there's collaboration and background meetings and discussions that allow us to forge an ever better conference every year that acts as a focal point and almost a milestone as opposed to an episodic event. And that's just one example of the kind of collaborations we look to do. So I'm very pleased to have the support of our sponsors, both Goodyear and the Cleveland Foundation, and the continuing support of this forum from Joe Mandato, one of our alumni and a Board of Trustee member and a former partner of mine on the Board of Trustees here at Case Western. So I urge all of you to spend time in conversations. I urge all of you to work with each other and to ask the types of questions that a lot of times are difficult to ask in the workplace, but can be and should be asked in an academic setting, because ultimately we are trying to create that quote unquote safe space to explore, to dream, and to think through how to put this in practice. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Ed Bernstein, the head of IRI, to take it away from here. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to IRI's and Case Western's Digital Futures Conference. Especially those of you who are IRI members, very welcome and thank you for coming. And thank everyone who's watching online. I just have to say that this is the fourth year of this partnership. It's the second time that we're doing this in person. And we do this for the reasons that you just heard. And everything that Andrew Medvedev just spoke about, I would wholeheartedly agree with. It isn't just, you know, it's true. Everything except for maybe Cleveland being one of the greatest cities of the world, but everything else he said I think is true. Sorry about that. And you know, this is a great partnership for IRI, and this is a great topic, and we see this a lot. I've been with IRI for 16 years, and I've watched this transition when we started as the Industrial Research Institute, and thinking about, you know, what legacy companies were bringing to the world, and this feeling that there was this sort of divide between those companies, the digital companies and the manufacturing companies, and I've really seen that disappear, that divide disappear. We've seen the digital companies become manufacturing companies, we've seen the manufacturing companies become digital, and I'm really pleased that IRI gets to be part of that transition and to help our members and to lead that new era of manufacturing in this country. And as part of that, IRI this year merged with the National Association of Manufacturers, NAM, and just because we see this interaction in digital and innovation and manufacturing, and it all coming together and creating this new economy. And I do believe that a lot of that is happening in Northeast Ohio, in the Cleveland area, and so we're very happy to be here. So I want to thank Young Jung Yu and everyone at Case Western for this partnership and this opportunity. And I also want to thank Lee Green with IRI for her efforts in helping to put this together with the people at Case Western, and also for creating the script for me, which I can't read without glasses. So let's see, I pretty much covered the first part here. Okay, so we, IRI, for those of you who aren't IRI members, might know that IRI has been in existence for over 80 years. We've been talking about innovation leadership solutions. And basically our brand focuses on bringing people together and to allowing networking. Those of you who are here for the structured networking know that a lot of the value that you get out of IRI and an event is from each other and from you. So that's why we have always structured things to be in these rounds so that you're talking to each other as much as you're listening to me, because you're actually more interesting than I am anyway. So, and we'll have networking events, and we have the breaks and so on, and we really encourage you to learn from each other as much as you're learning from what's happening up on stage here. The last thing that I'm supposed to mention is the emergency exits, which are not hard to find. And when you go outside, it's pretty easy to get out of this building. Just remember that there's doors to the back and to your left. And then when you go out the doors, there's a staircase right in front of you. Okay, so my next task here is to introduce our first TIM talk. TIM, TIM, is an acronym for Technology Innovation Management. We developed these TIM Talks as a way of introducing you to some things that aren't on the program, that they're sponsored. But basically the idea here is that you're going to get an introduction to what the sponsors can do, not so much as to who they are, but actually some relevant content. And so we have these talks, and we've done this for a few years now. So the first talk today, and what I'm going to do, and I'm looking, is to introduce Cliff Tironi, who's the Executive VP, there you are, of Strategic Accounts with Thinaer. And so I now turn it over to you, Cliff. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be back here in Cleveland. We were here 3 years ago, actually, at the last live conference. And so for those of you who are dialed in virtually, thank you for joining. And for those here, it's great to see some same faces and also some new ones here as well. So Lee has said, you get 15 minutes, that's it. And so in those 15 minutes, we're going to cover 2 mini use cases and talk about endless talent possibilities in the time that we have here together. And we've chosen these 2 use cases specifically because it aligns with the theme of this year's conference, which is all around how to build talent effectively. And I have to say, that was one of the most awesome, effective opening breakout networking sessions. I think we all felt like we could have stayed here probably all morning and all day talking through a lot of those questions that came up. I know I certainly did. Our table had really good discussion. And so we specifically at Thinaer chose 2 use cases that do focus, even though we are a digital transformation and IoT company, that focus specifically on the people side of transformation, because we wanted to align with with the content that we're all talking through here. So who is Thinaer? Just to give you a brief introduction into who we are, and then we'll dive right into the use cases. We are a digital transformation company that focuses on massive IoT. And we do a big focus on analytics and helping companies with understanding where their assets are and how their equipment is performing, and supply chain pedigree and how parts are moving from one place to another. And so a whole bunch of things that we do. I'll get into a little bit here. And one of the things that's unique about what we do is that we can combine data from IoT sensors. You're seeing in my hand here, this is one of many different types of sensors that we use. We don't manufacture these, but we use these, and we write all the software and analytics around it. And we combine that with the power of human-based input, human feedback. Because we recognize that digital transformation is only as good as the people that you have behind it. And in fact, you're going to see a quote up here from one of our clients, to paraphrase him, where he said that software does what you tell it to do, people don't. Right? And so how do you build the skills? How do you build the capabilities? How do you build the energy behind these large transformation projects? That's what we're going to be focusing on here. And so at Thinaer, we use any sensors whatsoever that are out there. We are agnostic to them, but they do things like track your equipment, you tag your environment, and then you get business value, is the real simplistic way of putting it. This is a 3D rendering of a sample factory floor. I'm sure many of you, this will resonate with you, but you can imagine that your assets, you want to track the vibration of equipment to understand how it's performing. You want to track your materials both within and outside the four walls of your facility. And you want to look at things like temperature and humidity and all of this in a really, really connected environment, right? Where you're making your old assets or even your new assets smart. And so that's what we do. We string that all up. We have a really great, easy to use and contextualized platform. We call it Sonar, where you can track your assets and look at all your things, and you get those great notifications. And you're seeing just some screenshots of that. We even do digital twinning too, to understand how your equipment is performing. The numbers speak for themselves here. Here's just a few stats from our clientele. We work with Department of Defense, aerospace manufacturing, through to consumer packaged goods, to car manufacturers and healthcare facilities. You're seeing some of the stats around improved productivity and gains in the operations. And we can do this at scale. And so we actually have a webinar that we recently did with one of our partner organizations called Williot. And in this in this webinar, you see how we really, really take IoT at scale. You could point to any facility and we can deploy tech, but we recognize that some cases you want to get your people behind the technology and the efforts, right? And that's exactly what these two use cases are going to hit on. Some of our clients want to actually have that deeper level of service, build up the talents, build up the skill sets, communicate to the employees why this change is happening, why it's important. And so we at Thinaer also offer that as a service as well. And so with that, this is a great quote from John Brandt. He said that digital transformation is as much a cultural change as it is a technological change. We couldn't agree more. And now I'm going to dive right in and show you these here two mini use cases. The most effective way is for you not to listen to me, but to listen to the people themselves. And so we have two mini videos that we've prepared here that'll give you just a little bit of an insight in the small few 15 minutes that we have into what large transformation looks like from their perspective. This first one is featuring Kevin Vaught. He's one of the supply chain leaders at Mars Wrigley. Here's that great quote that I was mentioning before, and here's actually a little mini video about their work.
We set out with a strategy over 4 years ago to transform our supply chain that's going to impact the organization in a way that we never had before.
At Thinaer, our goal is to help our partners maximize and optimize digital transformation. Mars was going through an incredibly complex, historic supply chain project, and it was really critical for them to create transparency. It's not always the change that people fear, it's the unknown.
Our biggest challenge was change management, and what Thinaer gave us was the ability to have real-time feedback.
We acquire feedback, we analyze the feedback, and then we act on the feedback. We were able to gauge at any given point what were the challenges, what were potential barriers.
The partnership with Thinaer helped us understand what people go through when they change.
We're continually collecting millions of physical, digital, and human experience data points to deliver precise, AI-backed operational insights. It's the 360 around what's happening within the organization.
You can't expect to have all the answers. And so the more that you can communicate, the more that you can share, the more that you can learn, the more successful your initiatives can be.
All right, great. So just to recap here with what we do, really take a humanized look at digital transformation, and you can do some really powerful things when you involve, I know you all know this and we're here to talk about this, when you involve your employees in that change. And it really excites me, and we really get passionate about combining data from machines and combining that with human-based input, and you can do some pretty impressive stuff. This is just a high-level visual model of some of the ways that we work, where we do discovery work all the way through to helping to drive that culture change and build that muscle across the organization. So with that, I'm going to go to the second use case here. This is featuring a number of people at Subaru. This is a quote from Mike Campbell, one of their executives, and you could see him speak more to this work in the video here.
Subaru's Love Promise is all about putting the customers first. That's also what we do at Thinaer. Our goal is to help Subaru build on a culture of innovation and provide a one-stop shop for digital transformation.
We want our customers to have their vehicles fixed right the first time.
We recognize that in order to get quality improvements happening faster, we would need to get more engagement from our technicians at our retailers.
Technicians were not necessarily incentivized to report on anything they encountered when diagnosing and repairing the vehicle.
It was something that we understood was bigger than we could manage internally.
We were trying to influence people who don't directly work for our company. And we understood from the beginning that we were going to need more than just a technology solution. If you don't have good engagement with the end users, it's not going to be used.
The biggest challenge was rolling out the technology across 7,000 technicians nationwide. What Thinaer did was to help coach Subaru's field managers on how to be better influential leaders without direct authority.
The one thing I can say about Thinaer is that they truly cared. Thinaer took the time to do the research, to provide us with tips and tricks on coaching and feedback.
By partnering with Thinaer, we were able to get the transformational edge that we needed. We've had tremendous engagement. The number of reports that we received is up by more than 50% over the previous year.
To have somebody come in with a fresh set of eyes was probably the most valuable piece of the development process.
At Thinaer, we use these innovative IoT sensors to track the entire supply chain, but collecting human feedback is the real key. What makes Subaru so innovative is how they're systematically tapping into the knowledge of technicians by capturing their feedback at scale on vehicles they service. It really gives a 360-degree view of their entire operation, and one way that they are upholding that love promise to their customers.
Great. So I think we're just about at time here. I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight into some of the large-scale transformations happening across a few different companies. Would love to engage with you more about that if you're interested. We are, shameless plug, facilitating a workshop this afternoon. We were very fortunate and thankful to get a grant from the IRI. Thank you again for that, for some research around how do you lead people through change. And so this is a joint collaboration effort between Thinaer, Mars Wrigley, and Temple University that we've been leading for the past few months. And so we're facilitating a workshop around that work this afternoon today at 1:30 in Ballroom A, which I think is over here. And last but not least, you all have scattered around your tables some QR codes. It's up on the screen for those of you who are dialed in from at home or at your office. Please, if you're interested in learning more and you want an opportunity to win some really cool new AirPods that just came out 2 weeks ago, submit your information. And even if you already have these, the holidays are coming up, and so this will make a fantastic gift. So submit that QR by 1 o'clock today, and we will announce the winner. I'll keep this up here a minute. And last but not least, we'd love to connect. Here's some contact info. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to engaging in the rest of the conference's sessions. Thank you.